Hey folks, Michael Daniels here with another top contributor hangout. We are joined tonight by Russ Bookman. Thank you for coming again. I wanted to say to everyone, as usual, what is a top contributor? Kind of give you a quick glance. What a top contributor is, we help in the forums. And what the forums are, as you can see in this image right here, here's all the different products. And we have forums for each one that you can come in, and some of them aren't listed. Like the new product Google Home isn't listed there, but it actually does have a forum. And I can get somebody, if you have that and you would like to get there, just let me know because I can get you that link. But hopefully they'll bring that on pretty soon because I know it's pretty popular with a lot of people. But this is where we get in and answer a lot of questions. Like I'm in the Hangout help forum, and when you look on here, you'll see. I'm going to scroll down a little bit. Oh yeah, I don't think it's working right now. We had issues with it today, whatever reason. But so if there's issues, then you can't do anything. So, but this is where you would go to ask your questions. If you have any questions about any Google product, this is what you do, and this is what we do to try and help them out. We get in there, people just like you and I, helping other people. Once you learn a product and things, you come in and we help each other out, and that's what we do there. That being said, let me introduce Russ. Russ, say hello to everyone.
Hey, everybody. Thanks for coming. I'm glad you all can make it.
Yeah, fantastic. Russ has been a TC in many different products. I'm going to let you just touch base on. I know we did it last time, but I'm going to let you do it again. Talk about what you're a rising star, top contributor, all these kind of things in the different products for me.
Okay. Actually, I'm primarily a top contributor in Gmail and also Inbox, and a rising star in Google Photos. That being said, here I am doing a TC Photos presentation with you guys, and I like to think I'm just as enthusiastic as the rest of you, and I really do enjoy working with Google Photos. So,
well, I tell you what, after the first one, we learned so much. I did. I learned two things that I didn't know that I have used ever since you did that. I think I kind of give you a side note and told you that. I was like, oh my God, thank you so much. I went in and put my son's wedding photos in and had the right date in there. It was just awesome. I had all that. So I'm really glad that you went through that. And I don't care if you touch on it again. And if you repeat anything this time, it's no big deal. Seriously, Russ. So feel free to rock and roll and go through it. Okay.
Okay.
And folks, if you want to leave comments, please leave your comments over there. I'll gladly try. We're going to try and get them all. I mean, there's some that have been left in here and some pretty long ones. And some of them are comments. Some of them are, how come it can't do this? So we'll try and touch on any of those that we can. Also, in your video screen as a viewer in the bottom right, you're going to have a gear wheel there. So if you're not seeing something clearly, you can adjust that by changing it from 480 to 720, that kind of thing. So, Russ, I'm going to leave it with you, brother. Rock and roll.
Okay, so before I share my screen, some things I just want to point out. I was kind of scrolling through some of the questions/complaints that maybe people are having about Google Photos. I think that's good that people are voicing their opinions about things they want and things they don't like. And I know sometimes we express our opinions about this stuff and maybe we don't always feel like Google hears us, but I can tell you that they definitely do look through all that stuff and pay attention to it. And my best suggestion for anybody that has a feature or an issue that they want resolved, and this actually applies to every Google app for the most part, but in both most of the mobile apps and also the websites, you can actually submit feedback right through the app. And usually that's, from some side menu or a gear icon and help and then submit feedback. That really is a good way to do it, and definitely submit those questions. I definitely am not a Google employee. You can't see it, but I actually do have a Google pullover on today, but I do not work for Google. So I don't know all the secrets about Google Photos that they haven't shared with the world. And the other thing I wanted to say is, last time I was able to show some stuff on mobile, even though I think we had a couple issues, if I remember correctly. I had similar issues trying to test this setup again. And I really like showing some of the stuff on mobile because I know that's how a lot of us use Google Photos. I just can't get it to work reliably. So rather than me spend 10 minutes trying to fix that, I'm going to try to focus primarily on the web version of Google Photos. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here, Michael. Let's see.
Okay. And yeah, if you guys listen, if you have a question about mobile while he's discussing,
yes,
he can always access it on his phone and go through that as well. He can tell you options that you have on both and that kind of thing. So I just wanted to input that too.
All right. So, okay, I'm just looking at my little thing here. You guys hopefully can see the Google Photos backup of a lifetime here. I kind of started my last one off with this. I want to make a point of saying that there's obviously a app for both iPhone and Android, which is great. There's obviously the web-based Google Photos that's available on all major platforms. And there's also this very first icon up here is the desktop uploader for Google Photos. We'll talk about that a little bit more, but that's primarily if you have a collection or library of photos on your computer that you want to be able to upload to Google Photos. It's not a sync. It doesn't sync your changes back and forth, but it's basically a way for you to get your photos online. I see someone there asked a question about, I can't see the entire link. It's cut off. I don't know if that's...
No, they're talking about the one that Andrew gave. That's right. You have to click the link. Anytime there's a link put over in there, you click the link, and then once you open it, then you can copy and paste it and bookmark it and do whatever you want, John. Okay. They're having their own conversation, but I'll take care of it.
That's okay.
All right, cool.
So yeah, and this is photos.google.com/apps. I'm guessing most of you already have Google Photos, but I'm never surprised by people that maybe don't know about the desktop uploader or something like that. So I always like to make sure that everybody knows that's there. All right, so I'm going to go over to the my Google Photos web tab right here. If you didn't know this from the last time, you're probably going to see a lot of pictures of my kids and my family. I'm sure that's what a lot of you guys are using Google Photos for too. So that's a really good thing.
Hopefully not your family though. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
Yeah, I mean, maybe if you're like a close friend, or maybe like you met, a couple of the TCs and I have met outside of.
There you go.
So yeah, and so these photos might be a little confusing if you see them all mixed together. So this is the Google Photos web interface. I know a lot of you have probably seen this, but I just want to go over some basics. By default, you are going to be brought to the Photos section. You can see right here, these are your three main sections. You have Assistant, Photos, and Albums. Photos is literally a giant pool of all of your photos that you've either uploaded using a desktop uploader or from your computer, from multiple devices, anything that you have synced, anything you have connected to your Google Photos account and syncing to it will show up here. So that's important. And these are basically in chronological order. A lot of people get really frustrated that this list is kind of just in chronological order. They want to go in here and they want to move stuff around and organize it. It is a little weird if you've used some other photo tools, but something to understand is that this is just a collection of all of your photos. What Google Photos really wants you to do is to make albums, to share your photos from here. And you can have photos be in multiple albums, and it's not making extra copies of them. It's just pulling them all from your main repository of photos. And we'll look at that a little bit more in a second here. And then here right below photos on the left, we have albums. Okay, let's let that load quick. All right. And in addition to albums, you'll see here, some of these are ones that I made. Some of these are kind of generated by things that I did. I'll also explain more about that later too. And across the top here are some really cool, like smart categories of things that Google Photos has kind of uncovered. So you see, these are photos I've shared. Then we have people, places, things, videos, collages, animations, and movies. A bunch of these are things that are done by the Google Assistant. And again, I'm going to go into a little bit more detail about that shortly. I just want to kind of show you guys the overall interface. And, you can go through all these and see a big list of albums. That's not my Harley, by the way. It's friends.
Hey, since we're on albums right now, can I ask a quick question?
Yes.
Okay.
You're the host, man.
Well, no, that's fine. I just want to make sure I understand this. Okay, so you have all your photos in one area, and let's say you want to share that photo. So you share that photo, it automatically puts it in an album. So that way your photo is not exposed to out there for everybody. It creates a single image in that new album that you create that you can send to somebody and share that album, because albums are shared, photos are not. And just tell me if I'm right or wrong on that.
Yeah, anytime you're sharing a photo, it's kind of an instance of the original photo. And a really good thing to know is, I mean, if I were to share, if I go back to photos here, if I were just to take this picture, today was his 100th day of school. That's why he's got the awesome hat on there. If I were to share this to 10 different people in 10 different albums, they would all see that photo. They would also see any changes I make to this photo. So if I enhanced this photo or adjusted it, they would all see the changes to that. There are ways you can save a copy of a photo, but for the most cases, they're all kind of pointing back to this picture. And what we do see a lot of people ask about is, I might go through later and be like, oh, you know what? This one looks a lot like this one. I'm going to delete it. When you delete that photo, it's now also not going to show up in those albums. So you might have instances where you share a photo with somebody or a couple photos. You might not really be aware of that, and you'll delete those photos, and those people will go to look, and sometimes you'll see like a little not found icon, or it just won't be there. So you do have to kind of be aware of that.
That's great to know. Thank you.
Yep. I think I covered in general most of the stuff here in albums. And we're going to come back here and do a little bit more with albums. I want to see something here really quick. I feel like I'm kind of out of this conversation here. Let's see here. Can't do what I'm doing on my other screen here, but I want to see if this works. I don't think that's going to work well. Okay. So anyway, yeah, so this is albums. We're going to come back here shortly. And then our last section, which I really think is kind of the magic of Google Photos, is Assistant, and that's right here. Okay, this is full of Google Photos will kind of analyze your photos and look for neat things, patterns, similar things it thinks it can do better for you, all sorts of stuff like that. So it could be photos from this day 2 years ago. It could be a collage like we see here of my son. I also took a picture of, took a kind of a burst shot of some water flowing in the stream by my house, and it automatically patched these together and made a little animation for me. It's funny, depending on who you share these animations with, if they're not aware of what an animated GIF is, or GIF, depending on what you're stuck on. I know the official word now is GIF, but you know, a lot of people just say, oh, you shared a little video with me. It's not a video. It's actually an image file that they're seeing. So that's really kind of cool. You know, these are a new album. It created this album right here for me automatically. I just took a bunch of pictures here of this day, and it grouped them together. And you can see underneath here, you'll see stuff like save to albums. If you don't click save to albums, those automatically generated things won't always be available. Even here, you see save to library for this animation. People go in here and think, oh, this is great to look at. This is really cute. Yeah, I like it. And then what happens is they never go back in and actually hit save to library. And there is a way to get to those for a little while afterwards. But really, I'm kind of in the habit of always saving these if I'm even remotely liking them, because you know what? They're not taking up space, and I can always delete them later. And here we go. Here's a movie. This is my son's first day of basketball practice. So it's just showing me a little highlight of basketball, which I thought was really cool. Okay. So far, are there any urgent questions that popped up before I get going into anything? Yes, auto rotate. I see the question about auto rotate. Google Photos, that's one of their new kind of like assistant suggestions now. I don't know if I have one that was like showing up in mine. Let me see if I it's kind of hard sometimes to, intentionally find some of those things. But yeah, if it detects pictures that it thinks you meant to take landscape, but maybe you were holding, sometimes it happens to me, I'm holding my phone, maybe taking a picture of something on a desk or at a weird angle. I think my phone's taking a picture of it in landscape, but it actually ends up being a portrait photo. It will suggest now, if it identifies those, it will say, hey, we think you maybe wanted these to be rotated this way. What do you think? And you can really easily go in and just say yes to all of them or yes to some of them. So that's really cool. I mean, you can select, if I go to one of these, right from this screen, you can't do any of that stuff. If I go into one of these pictures, let me get back into this, you can go up in here, and by editing, you can have rotate here, rotate. But this typically is more to make a picture level, and it only shows up sometimes. So it detects something about my picture that it thinks isn't level.
Like the couch or something's not level, so it's trying to straighten it out.
Yeah, I mean, the most obvious examples are like when people take pictures. Yeah. I was gonna say, where the horizon is visible when you're at the beach or something. But I'm gonna show you. I'm gonna click on watch the 0. I'm gonna click auto. So apparently I was holding my camera 1 degree off. So now everything is right in the world now that I've hit auto. And you can still adjust that back and forth to make it any way you want. And sometimes I think we intentionally take photos at different angles just because we want to be different.
Absolutely, because sometimes we want to pretend like we were in the old Batman TV shows. So you wanted it at an angle, right?
Yep. I'm going to come back to some more editing stuff in a little bit.
While you're doing that, Richard says, I like that you can take some pictures and select several or all and make a movie out of it with music. Yeah,
and you want to know what? I'm going to state my complaint with Google Photos.
Okay.
I love the movies in Google Photos. I just get really aggravated that I can't create them from the web version of Google Photos.
Oh, yeah.
You can only do that on mobile, and you can only do that nowadays. Most phones are able to do that. Initially, you can only do it on certain phones. But I don't know. I don't mind the mobile interface. But sometimes when sometimes I'll put some good time into those, and I think it would be a lot easier if I could see my computer screen, edit clips a little bit better. I don't know if that's going to come to the web version, but I know I would really like to see that.
Yeah, sometimes it's just easier when you see a bigger screen, especially the older you get. When you're an old fart like I am.
Well, I don't know. You have just as much hair as me, so you're just as young as I am, then, right?
Good point. Good point.
Although I got the facial hair, so I'm ahead of you, I guess. So something else that I almost kind of forgot to mention is this side menu in Google Photos. I really wish I could show you the mobile version. I probably should have had a screenshot ready, and I apologize. This is another way to get to those main sections. It also lets you see photos that are shared. Trash, super important. We see so many people that freak out that their photos are gone. And, like, oh my gosh, all my photos are gone. I don't know where they went. Well, luckily, if you go into trash, you can see I have my kid's tablet synced to my Google Photos account. These don't look very interesting, but every once in a while I get a real gem of a picture that they took. They're 5.5 and 2, and they'll take a really great picture from some great angle that I would have never thought of. And I just like seeing the world from their perspective. So that's what I do. But you can go in there, and photos in there will automatically delete after 60 days. Settings here, and here's send feedback, by the way, for those of you who are interested. Settings, really super important. High quality, notice this, free unlimited storage. We have a lot of people who put this at original. I have this on original because I'm just weird like that, and I have plenty of storage. But the downside of that is that storage is finite. It will fill up over time. The high quality setting for almost everyone is going to be perfect. It's up to, I believe, 16 megapixels, which is really big. And I bet if you were to show the high quality version and the original next to someone who wasn't a photo expert, they probably would not be able to tell any difference. So just note that you can choose high quality. You can't magically go from high quality to original and have all your photos revert back to original. But what is really cool is if you run out of storage, or if you're running low on space in your Google account, all that storage is combined. This option right here for recover storage is really important to know about. I could go into here and it will actually tell me, hey, we can convert all of your original quality photos to high quality, and we'll do it retroactively. They will go back and review all your photos and say, hey, we can save you X number of gigabytes if you just let us convert all of that stuff to high quality. And that is good for some people. But again, make sure you have it set to high quality unless you're really particular and want it set to original.
So is this real quick, Google Drive, or is this your Google account?
This screen or the storage?
No, the storage. I'm sorry.
Well, all of your storage within your, I like to say Google account now, because since that storage is actually shared by, and I'm actually going to show you a link here. Let me see if I can remember the, I don't know if I typed that. Let's see here. I'm just going to do a search. Don't yell at me for not knowing that off the top of my head.
No worries.
All right, let's see here. Google Drive, storage plans. If I go here, right, there's a link in the help file somewhere. That's not it.
I didn't mean to put you on the spot.
No, I mean, I actually think it's really important. Here we go. This is a really cool screen. This is google.com. Just do a search for Google storage. This is showing my Drive storage. So, I mean, it is still technically Drive.
But it's everything.
But yeah, but that space is shared. And you can see down here is storage is shared across Google Drive, Gmail, and Google Photos. Okay. So what happens is some people have giant attachments in Gmail. They have a bunch of stuff in Google Drive. It is all shared. And if I hold my mouse, if I click on this, did they take that feature away? I really liked it. Oh, view details. Here we go. You can click view details and see how much space you're using up in
from
each
each
of
one.
those locations. Yep.
Nice.
So even though this is a Google Photos presentation, it's related, and I think it's a good place for people to know about. And I got it, so I'm going to click got it.
That's fantastic.
Were you going to ask something?
I was just going to, before we move on, because we were talking about that other, Richard asked a question real quick. If you adjust a picture with Snapseed, does it make a duplicate picture in Google Photos or replace the original?
You know what? Normally, I would know 100% the answer to that question. But in my case, I have my photos stored on an SD card on my phone. For certain, if you have an SD card on your phone, even if you were to edit a photo in Google Photos, the app that was on your SD card, Google Photos cannot edit directly photos that are on your SD card. So it'll make a copy of one of your photos, even if you use the Google Photos editor, if it's on your SD card. With Snapseed, I know when I use it, it always is making a duplicate. For some reason, I think if you were to edit a photo that is stored on your internal phone memory, for some reason, I do think it may change that. But that doesn't, I don't know the answer to that for sure. But I can definitely tell you that if the photos are stored on your SD card, both Google Photos and Snapseed will make a copy. And I don't know about you, but that actually is my preference. Because usually when I'm in Snapseed, I'm doing probably some more major adjustments and tweaking, and I kind of like there to be a second one for me to look at.
All right, thanks.
He uses SD card, yeah. So you'll run into the same situation as me, and there's really no way around that. That's actually not Google Photos' fault. That's just an Android security setting that has to do with allowing apps that didn't create your photos to edit your files, which is good. It might seem like a little bit of a pain, but it's kind of for your security. Something you don't get in the web version of these setting screens that I really want to hit on, that's on the mobile version, whether you're using Google Photos already or whether you are going to think about using it for the first time, when you set up that mobile app, it is very important that the first thing you do is open that side menu, go to settings, and make sure you turn on backup and sync. It's going to walk you through that when you do it, but if you do not, or if you turn it off, your photos will not automatically be synchronized from your phone to your Google Photos account. You'll also see options in there for quality, like you see here, and also options for when you want it to back up. Do you want to back up really huge videos on your cell data? Maybe not. Do you only want it to back up while your phone's charging so it doesn't drain your battery during the day? You might want to do that. So those are all things that are really important. And you'll also see a screen for device folders. And that's also something I really wish I could show you here, and I'm sorry I can't. So now that you've been staring at a settings screen for a while, I see there's a question here.
Yeah, and I'd pull them up on screen, but for some reason it's not working tonight.
Yeah, that's okay.
Yeah.
Let's see here.
It was just confirming what was being asked.
Okay. Okay. Oh, yeah. So Michael, you wrote, can't determine if my photos are backed up between my Google Drive and my cloud drive. But if I recall which device I use to take or establish a pic, I usually know where it's stored. Yeah, I mean, I guess when I hear the term Google Drive and Cloud Drive, are you referring to the cloud version of Google Drive? I mean, to me, those are the same thing because ultimately your Google Drive files are stored in the cloud. Now, there is a little bit of an issue with whether or not your Google Drive photos are going to show up in Google Photos or not, and there are options for that. Right here within Google Photos, you have an option for Google Drive. Show Google Drive photos and videos in your photos library. So if you already have a collection of photos that you've uploaded in the past to Google Drive and you're just starting to use Google Photos, you definitely, well, not definitely, but you may want to consider turning on this option if you want those photos to be visible here. There's also a setting in Google Drive. Let me see if I can go there for you quick. Know that link. Or Google Photos, where I can actually see my photos from Google Photos within Google Drive. But if I remember correctly, that is also a setting.
Yeah, he was talking about Cloud Drive from Windows. Or
okay. I didn't see that. Yeah, yeah, you know, it is funny, you know, in this day and age, it does get a little, it gets a little overwhelming.
I do the same thing with Dropbox, and then I do some with, I mean, so I get the same issues and stuff. So,
okay. So for the sake of, you know, moving this along, I know right now I basically just gone over the interface, and a lot of you probably know that. So, I guess a couple basic things. We're just going to take a picture here. This picture looks a little boring, but my goal is to make it a little bit more interesting by the time we're done with it. So my wife was on the ride home today, and there happened to be a house fire. So she just kind of took a picture of that, and you know, I'm actually just seeing this for the first time, and it's really just kind of catching my eye. So you know, what's interesting though is, you know, hey, say what you want about the tone of this picture. It does kind of catch my attention, but it was taken quickly, and here it is. You know, how can you take a picture like this even and make it more interesting, or have it maybe pop more?
So she's the one slowing up traffic. Then I just had to interject that. Sorry, go ahead.
Well, since this is not a 360 photo, you do not have any evidence that there's a car in front of her or not. But my wife is an excellent driver, and she would never do that unless she was already stopped. So anyway,
that was a great disclaimer. Anyway, go ahead.
Thank you. I was hoping to say it loud enough so she heard me. So Photos has some really cool built-in editing tools. I just clicked on the photo, and up here we have this little pencil icon. And they did change some stuff recently since the last time I did this with you. They changed a little bit of the way that they have these different options, which I'll go into. But basically, this first little icon here is kind of filters. These are like quick ways to apply general effects to a photo. These names, unfortunately, aren't super helpful in knowing what they're doing, but at least they give you a quick thumbnail to know what they're going to do. So for instance, I can maybe just click on this one like Metro. It's a little bit strange that it's showing the picture that I was on before and not this picture, but let's click on that anyway. And does the change come across over the...
Oh, it changes all right. It's real grainy.
Okay, good. Yeah, I tried to pick one that was, seemed kind of dramatic. And then you get a slider where you can adjust how much of that is applied to the original photo. So there's basically our original, and there's the full filter. So you can see it's a pretty dramatic difference. If you want to turn it off, you can just go to original, and you're back to there. Then the second tab here is settings. I'm going to come back to that in a second because that's a little bit more involved. This is basically to manually adjust a lot of the stuff in the photo. And then you also have here crop and rotate where we were before. Notice this one doesn't have auto enabled, which kind of surprises me because there's things in here that I would think Google Photos would perceive as horizons and straight lines. But either way, you can drag up and down to rotate this. You can also click up here to just rotate all the way around. And you also have reset to get back to where you want. That's all rotating. You can manually crop a photo by dragging these little handles. And it gives you a little grid to see how big you're going to make it. You also have presets right here for aspect ratio. So you can click on this. Free is like free form. Original just keeps it to the exact size, not the exact size, the exact proportions that the original photos was. Square is kind of the whole Instagram thing. So it's keeping it a square. And I can make it big or small, but it's going to stay a square. And if that doesn't look perfectly square, it might have more to do with my monitor resolution. But and then you have 16:9 if you want to get all cinematic with a photo that's not taken in that ratio. And then of course you have more of a traditional 4:3, 3:2, and whatever. Seeing how we're doing on I guess okay. So more importantly, I'm on the settings tab right now. This screen lets you more or less manually adjust certain things about your picture. They break it down into light, which I just kind of think of as brightness and lighting, color, and then pop. And each of these over on the right has a little arrow that you can click on and expand to see much more advanced settings about each one. Same for color. And you'll notice that pop does not have that because all pop does, I say that and I don't know the official definition for pop, but I like to say that it's kind of a combination of enhancing the contrast and saturation and levels of a photo to make it more vivid and vibrant. So I'm going to just drag this way up and you can just see it's just kind of a very contrasty type photo. If there was more color in here, you'd see that more too. I'm going to drag that back. Something else worth noting too is these do have the drop down here, but you don't need to use those. I can just go in here and adjust the light. I made it really bright and make it really dark. I didn't touch any of the other stuff. All I did was adjust the brightness and I can make it more colorful. And if I expand on these, you'll see it actually intelligently adjusted various settings within there automatically based on me just adjusting that light bar, okay? And the same goes for color. So if I scroll down, I didn't touch saturation specifically or skin tone or deep blue. It did that based on me adjusting that. Deep blue is an interesting one. From what I've seen and read, the best way to kind of see what deep blue does, if I put this back to normal, is it typically will bring out the blue in skies or that sky color blue. So if you have an overcast sky like this, let's see how lucky we get if I drag this up. And I don't know if you guys could see that. The cloud area got a little bit bluer, but I don't know if that was actually sky. I think that was actually clouds and it thought it was.
Yeah, maybe.
Yep. So I don't know how much you want me to really get into these specific levels.
No, I
Although,
think just them knowing that they're there, I think is a good thing. That's a good thing that they, hey, here's some of the things you have the ability to do.
yeah, and I mean, I think depending on the photo you're editing, I think some of these are really important to take note of. I mean, I typically pay a lot of attention to exposure, shadows, and also saturation, warmth, and skin tone. Those are the ones I usually am paying attention to. And then vignette, I always think kind of, adds a little bit of a effect to a photo. I don't know if it's right for this one or not. But, we can drag these around as however we want. And then, in the previous version, oops, sorry about that. In the previous version, auto was a little bit different. Auto is Google Photos using its, let's see here, I experience cropping the 360 image.
Yeah, here, I can pull it up real quick if you want to see.
I'm looking at that.
I had an experience by cropping the 360 image bottom to delete the tripped from the street view image. It was wonderful. So there you go.
I'm assuming he meant tripod. But yes, that is awesome because that does sometimes happen. And I'll tell you what, when I first started reading that, I was actually wondering in my head if after cropping it was still going to maintain the 360. So it's really good that it did that. That's awesome. Not to mention, you can make those photos the same adjustments you would make in here. You could make and have those 360 images look even better. So, anyways, when Google Photos was still Google Plus Photos, they used to call it Auto Enhance, and you could even have it automatically applied to your photos, which I actually personally liked. What they have now is they just call it auto, and it's Google Photos does its best attempt to make your picture look better. And honestly, most of the time it works really well. There's some times where you might want to adjust it manually, but here we go. I'm going to just click, here's original. Let's just make sure we're back. Undo edits. Let's go back to our very beginning. Okay. So this is uncropped original. And I'm going to just click on auto here and you can see the little preview. Yeah, I mean, at least on my screen, that definitely is looking better. It just looks a little bit more clear.
For sure, for sure.
You can hold down up here. It says click and hold to compare. I can just hold down on this, and it just shows me a quick back and forth. That's the original. If I let go, back to the adjusted. And I can actually make additional adjustments on top of that. So I can go into my manual adjustments, and maybe I want it to pop even more. Maybe I want it to be really colorful. Maybe I want it to be a little bit warmer of a picture because it does look kind of cool. So there we go. Okay, what's that question?
He says the autofix is in the mobile, same with the pop setting to make the picture pop.
Yeah, it's funny. I've been using this a little while now, but I believe in the previous one, auto was kind of above these settings, and then you could kind of, adjust the sliders like you normally would. But yeah, thanks for that. And if I like this, I could just hit done, and it will actually, super important again is these are non-destructive changes to your photos. Everyone's worried that, oh, I don't want to mess with my photos because what if I adjust it or crop it or rotate it and I make a mistake? You can undo edits at any time. Google is never changing your original photos, which I think is awesome. So I could hit undo edits right now on any of the photos I've edited, and they'll go back to how I took them. I could hit done, and it would just apply my changes and save that. For those of you that want to have different versions of a photo, underneath this sort of little drop down here is save a copy. So a lot of people want to know, I don't want to change my photo. Is there a way to make a copy? This is how you do it. So you just hit save a copy, and I'll do that actually right now. And when I go back to my photos, you'll see now. I don't know if I'm right about that. I mean, it definitely did. I'm just wondering why it's not showing up there. I don't think that's my new one. No, that's not it. We'll refresh.
There we go.
There we go. So now you can see here's the copy I saved. It just has a little bit of a different look. You can also, you know, I think part of the reason that all these photos are lumped into one place is, you know, Google just wants to make it easy for you to get to them. Okay. So I don't even know what my latest count of photos is in here. I want to say I'm maybe in the 30, 40,000 photos, maybe more than that. And that's photos and videos. Google is great, as you would expect, at searching. So not only can we search up ahead, I can type in something, some of the obvious ones are like dog, right? And it's going to show me a bunch of pictures of dogs. Okay. So I just think that's pretty cool. I don't know why it's showing my son jumping on pillows when I type in dog. Oh, there we go. Look, it picked up the little stuffed animal toy dog. Yep. So it had its reasoning. But you can also type really cool stuff in here. I mean, sometimes you can do, I always like doing sunset. I'm a little romantic guy, you know, so show me a bunch of pictures I took that have sunsets or sunrises. It's just kind of a nice way to look through all those. But then in addition to that, I believe you can even type something in like me with a younger son. And okay, so I'm not in that one. I'm not in any of those. I used to be able to do that. Me with, what if I do Max and like the and sign. Okay, so it's just showing me all the pictures of Max and Mike. But you notice when I click on here, it shows you this cool little, I'm pointing to my screen like you guys can see what I'm doing. So, oh, I see here just a question I want to answer here. Are they still doing the auto awesome of our photos? Okay, so yes, they just don't call it auto awesome anymore. And that question is from Mark. Those are basically all now part of the assistant. So when I go back here to assistant, you can see here that all of these, now on besides the new activity, this collage, the animation, these are all what used to be auto awesome. The movies, you know, they had all these different ones that they do. They do still do that. You do have to make sure though that in your settings, assistant cards, you do need to make sure that you have these turned on. Creations, get collages, animations, movies, and more made for you from your photos, okay? If you don't have that enabled, you're not going to see some of those cool, quote unquote, auto awesomes that you're used to. So just make sure you have that turned on. Same with these other things. I tend to really like those. And here's suggested rotations, by the way, from before. Sorry if my voice is going a little bit. I'm just getting over some laryngitis, and I think my voice is mostly back. So yeah, just back to this. Yeah.
We're at the top of the hour, so wherever you need to be, go ahead and get there. We're answering questions as we go, so that helps, but we can answer some of the ones that were passed if you want to. I mean, we can, whatever you want to do. It's up to you.
You asking me or asking them?
I'm asking you.
Well, that's up to them. I mean, if a bunch of people start typing right now, I have a question, we can do that. I always feel like, man, I feel like you could talk about this for 2 or 3 hours. Not that anyone wants to sit through 2 or 3 hours of this. But you know, I'm going to show a couple things here I think are important. If someone pops up a question, just jump in and interrupt me.
Got it.
So just really quick, this search box really easily lets you search for kind of presets, videos, selfies, movies, animations. There's more down below here. So you can see 360 photos. So for those of you that don't know what those are, you know, for example, here's a picture that I took at a store we were setting up. I actually didn't do a full one of this, but you can see, you can actually rotate right around this and just see that in kind of a 360 view. I think those are really cool, especially if you have Google Cardboard or some other, you know, Daydream or some other VR type headset that works through the phone. Really, really cool to do. And then what else was I going to show you? I do want to mention Photoscan too. For those of you that may have,
I absolutely love that. I just want to attest right now that I'm so glad they invented that. It has helped me in creating an album for my kids and stuff like that, using old photos and stuff. It is awesome. But anyway, go ahead.
You know, basically, I actually don't have any in here because I used it once, and I'm not sure why that one particular photo didn't show up. But basically, Photoscan, and actually I'm going to see if I can just find a page because they have a really cool little animation. I think it might even be right on this page. Yeah, let's see here. So there's basically saying if you have old printed photos that you want to get into your phone or Google Photos easily, maybe you don't have a scanner, maybe you just don't like scanning them and then cropping them, put them in, you can, I'm trying to get to a particular screen here. That's not the image I wanted. Used to have a really great, I hate to play a video in the middle of our presentation, but basically it's a really cool way for you to, you hold your phone over a photo, it guides you through dragging it to different corners, and then basically it'll take that photo, put it all together into a nice, really high-res photo, and upload it right into your account. Really, really cool. And that's a free app you can download through the Play Store. And you can also do by place, which I think is really cool when you're searching. So if you don't know maybe when you took a photo, you can always search for where you were. So that's pretty cool. The scroll bar. People do not always realize this. People want to know, hey, how do I easily browse through my photos by when I took them? Well, you know what? Right over here, you notice when I bring my mouse over here to the scroll bar, over on the right, it's showing me the date, the month, and the year. I can just drag down through this, and you'll notice as I do it, it's telling me what month and year I'm in. Super cool. I love that I can do that. And, here we go. My first son was born in 2011 of May. I can go down to May. Oops. There we go. Bam. Photos. And my second son was born in Yep, there we go. Bam. So I can go right really quickly to photos I know I took in a certain time period. Stuff like that I just think is really cool. Oh, are you going to demo Photoscan quick?
Yeah, I was, since I was able to get it up in time. So if you want me to, I can. But
yeah, go for it. I think it's really important that people know about it.
It's an app. You can see it right in the middle of my screen. It's right here. Oops, let me make that circle smaller, but it's right there. And when you go to it, it's really kind of cool. Let me go grab a photo real quick. Here, I don't want to drive you crazy, but hang on a second. I'll grab a photo. How about a photo from my 50th birthday party? How's that?
There you go.
There you go.
You're not 50, are you? You're not over 50.
I'm 53, dude. 53.
Man. See? Balls than not, I wouldn't have guessed.
See, so this has like a glare. It's got a glass thing on. And one of the cool things about this, one thing that I found is that it'll take a lot of that out. Now, I don't know. I mean, I'm really in a dark area. I mean, near my computer, but with the light right there. So see, it has that spot there. Oh, here my phone wanting to shut down. Doesn't it figure right when I wanted to do something?
So that's what Photoscan does. It turns your phone off for you to save battery.
Yes, exactly. But anyway, what it ends up doing is you put it'll put on 4 screens for you. It'll put like 4 dots in each corner, and it builds that image around all that. It's really cool. I mean, it's really a great tool, and I can't believe my phone just died for this. So whatever. It's just my luck. So anyway, back to you.
I see there that I'm going to totally pronounce your name incorrectly. I'm not going to even say it, but he suggested Cam Scanner was another alternative. And I do think there are probably several third-party apps out there that probably do a similar thing, and they may be better or worse in different ways. We're just pushing that because, hey, it happened to be tied in directly with Google Photos. Me personally, just because of what I do and how I am, I tend to like to scan in like a scanner bed, if you have one, of photos at a time kind of crop them all at once. I did all that. Albums was the one other thing that we didn't really touch on. And I just wanted to make the point that you have all these photos in this one big page that's kind of going to be from everywhere, okay? You can grab any of these photos you want. You can go over here. You can hold down Shift if you want, and I can grab anything in between. So there's ways to grab multiple photos. And just by going up here, I can create a new album, which is just private for me, which I can always share later, but it's initially private to me. I can create a shared album, which is something that I'm going to share with other people. And I even have the option to allow them to jump in on those and do stuff. And then there's also, I can make things from those, like an animation or a collage. So maybe I think, maybe I just want to get a couple different photos of my kids wearing this stuff, and I just like them all, and I just want to turn that into a collage. I can say plus collage. Bam. Made a cool little collage for me. I think that's kind of neat. And then I can take these, and I am going to add these to a shared album, Michael, and I'm probably going to share these with you just to kind of show them, because I do think sharing is a big part of Google Photos.
Absolutely.
So, shared album. I'm going to just make a new shared album. All right, you can name that whatever you want. So right now I have it. I gave it a name, and I'm going to hit share. Well, here it's going to show you different people I can share with. You'll see some of these people have this little Google Photos icon on it, by their face. That means that either those people have Google Photos installed, or I believe sometimes it can also be if their phone number or email address is associated with a Google Photos account, but maybe they don't have it. But either way, you typically know which ones of your friends have it. I'm going to click on Michael right here. And didn't mean to do that. And just check that. And he should get that. And what I want to show you is right away, it's going to show a faded profile picture of Michael. That lets me know like who I shared it with, but that means that he hasn't quite seen it yet. He hasn't actually clicked on the link to view it. Once he does, if he can, that photo will actually be vibrant and more colorful like mine. That lets me know he actually clicked on the link and saw it.
Looking at him now.
Yep. Okay. So I don't know if it'll do it in real time with me on this page, or if I'll have to.
Yeah, you might have to refresh.
So I'm going to refresh, and then bam. So now I can see he's actually clicked on my link and he sees my photo. The woman's name you mentioned earlier, Michael, was it Jonna? She had asked something about not liking that people were sharing albums with her and her profile picture showing up kind of without her even wanting to be shared on them. It's a little bit of a thing I don't know if I have a specific answer for, but I do know some people are concerned about privacy concerns in different ways. I will say this though, if you have a Google account and you have a Google profile photo available, it's going to show here, okay? If you don't use Google Photos and don't have a Google account and someone just shares with your email address or even to, I believe, a phone number, it'll show a generic item. Maybe, for example, it might have just shown, yeah, there it is. So if I didn't have a Google account and, or if Michael didn't have a Google account and I just shared it with maybe a Hotmail address, shame on me, or, maybe a phone number or something, it would know anything about him, really. It would show a generic icon. Maybe if it had a name, it might show an M or something like that. So it's not like it's knowing more about you than you let Google know. I think for the most part, your Google profile picture, I think if you add one, I'm pretty sure it's visible publicly. I don't know if you can make your profile picture private. So, I mean, that's kind of comes with the territory, I guess. Really important in shared albums, though, again, is if I delete my photos from my actual photos library, some of these will go away and not be visible on the screen. I can also go into settings here And this is where people like to do stuff. People always want to rearrange the photo screen. Well, this is where you can rearrange stuff. You know, this is where you can edit the album, and I can go in and I can move this photo over here. I can move this photo over here. And then when I'm done, I can just hit the little check mark. Something Michael really liked is you can click on any of these photos, go up here, choose. Actually, I guess I can't do that because it's a shared album. I was going to show them the edit date time, the timestamp, but that you can't do that when it's shared.
Oh, I got you. But you can do it on the original photo, though, right?
You know what? I'm going to try that in a second. But I think once a photo is part of a shared album, it gets kind of a little bit more restricted. We'll find out in a second. But sharing options, super important. By default, right now I've just shared this with you. You currently, by default, it's set to collaborate, to let others add their photos and videos, to comment on them. Something to be aware of is, you know, they're basically kind of like a shared editor. You know, they can download these, they can put other photos in here. If I don't want him to be able to do that, I can just hit uncheck collaborate like that, but I'm not going to do it. Typically, just so you guys know, I like having a little bit more control over photos when I'm sharing them. So, you know, I will often just create a regular album first that doesn't have all the sharing in place, and then I'll share it specifically with somebody, and it will let me have a little bit more control over what they can do from the beginning. I kind of should have done this earlier, but I kind of feel like I'm out of this whole presentation. So there you go. Now you guys can see me. That's kind of weird. So yeah, I went away anyway. I just want to see now. I think I share. So that one I shared right there. If I go back. Of course, now I don't know if it is this one or this one. Although I guess I can just go here. If I go to albums, and what's that saying?
I believe you just said if you drag an image to the image search on your search page, it will auto search where and who is responsible for the picking.
So you're saying if I do this? I don't know if that's what they meant. If you drag an image to the image search on your search page, it'll auto search where and who is responsible. I'm not sure if I did what you meant, Michael, the other Michael. I don't know if you meant within here or if you meant some sort of Google search.
Can you drag it within there, or you already tried that?
I mean, I would just click the info button in here, and this is where I can kind of type a little description and see this stuff. Maybe he'll kind of, maybe he'll elaborate on that in a second. But yeah, what I was kind of curious about was if I go back into this shared album here. Okay, so that one I know. I'll go back to my photos. All right, so this one I know is part of that album. What was I trying to do before? Yeah, see, even here. Okay, so here I can click edit and I can change the time. Okay, so I was trying to do it through the menu. But if you're doing individual pictures, you can change the timestamp by clicking on a pencil and clicking on a pencil by the date over here. That was something I was showing Michael last time because he was talking about, wedding photos and stuff. Sometimes the camera date is off. Now, what's also really cool that I showed him is I can grab a whole bunch of these if I wanted to. And I hit the wrong button. Doesn't matter what photos I grab. I can actually go up here now and hit edit date and time on multiple photos. And this is super important to know. If I just hit set one date and time, whatever time and date I set, it'll apply to every single photo. Okay. Probably not a big deal if you knew that you took all those pictures around the same time and you just want to correct a major mistake. Shift dates and time is probably more important if you went on a trip or you went to a wedding, and let's say the year was off on your camera or the month or something was off, maybe just the time, you could hit shift dates and times. And based on the initial shifting, if I show up 5 pictures in a day, want it to be, let's just say 3, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and I chose that shift dates and times, it would actually remember that one was several hours later than the other, and one was the morning, one was the afternoon, one was at night. So it's a really important thing to know. Did anybody happen to, I was really curious about that drag.
Yeah, he said you can drag it to a Chrome tab.
I see what you're saying. Yeah. Well, you can even, like if I go on any of these, you should be able to say open image, new tab. It's kind of the same thing. And I think he's saying search Google for this. Is that what he's saying? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Now, he's saying and place or drop it in the search bar. I'm actually kind of curious about this because I've never done this. I mean, if I search Google for this image, I don't know if it's going to find it. That picture, yeah, that says toddler. Yeah. So, I mean, something I want to point out about this, he brings up a really good point. You know, all these photos, until I share them, they're all private. Whether I make an album or whether they just upload from my phone, people get really worried that, oh my gosh, all my photos are on the web. Well, the ones that sync to Google Photos, they are backed up to your Google Photos account, and technically they're accessible through the web. However, they're not available to the public. They're not shared with anybody by default. If you don't like the idea of your photos being online anywhere, you probably don't want to sync your photos to Google Photos. Even though they're just available to you and they're locked behind your Google account, it's not for you. It's probably not for everybody. However, once you start adding stuff to albums and sharing those albums or sharing photos, yes, those photos are shared with those people. But in the case of dragging this image to a tab or searching Google for an image, concerned if it showed me something valid for my image, because that photo is private. I haven't shared it. Google search shouldn't even be able to see that picture because it's not a public photo. It's not indexed. If you're doing that to photos that maybe are shared publicly or maybe have been shared with a link that's accessible to anybody, then it might tell you some more information. I know Google's got the whole AI thing going. It might be able to tell you some stuff about it if there's a famous person in there or landmarks or stuff like that. I know you can type, landmarks in here too. What's that name of that mountain in Yosemite? I don't remember it. I actually didn't take these photos.
You just put Mount Rushmore in there or something.
Yeah, well, unfortunately, I don't know if I have any pictures of Mount Rushmore in my.
I got you.
I was trying to think of one I've recently can think of, but really, what I think it's like, okay. I'm probably spelling that wrong. Okay, maybe I did type that kind of right. So one of these mountains, this mountain over here, this is El Capitan in Yosemite. It's Yosemite that a lot of people will kind of climb and hike. So it recognized that, I didn't type Yosemite up here. It found this. I did before, but this time I just typed it, and it's able to identify major landmarks like that. So I think that sort of thing is really, really cool. I don't know. I could keep going and going, Michael, but I want to make sure.
Yeah, we're already at an hour plus. So,
yeah, I mean, I want to make sure, it's one of those things like, I know this is part 2, and I think if I knew from the beginning that I was doing part 1 and part 2, I might have laid all this stuff out a little bit differently. But you can see why it would have taken a lot of time, even to do mobile, trying to think of some of the major things. I mean, there's all sorts of little settings I didn't get into. But does anyone that's still here have any questions or anything I can show you that you were really hoping to see here? And I'm going to switch off my screen.
Yeah, I think it's a good idea to say that and wrap that, because I mean, an hour is plenty, hour plus.
Now let's see.
Watermarking or anything like that. Have we discussed that? No, we didn't.
Can you guys see me? Okay.
Yeah, we see you.
Okay. Oh, what was that? That was the question about watermarking?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if there's a built-in way to watermark images. I didn't see the whole question, but I don't know if she meant, you know, having it be watermarked with something kind of custom versus maybe just some sort of, Google Photos watermark. I don't think that's what she meant. She probably wanted to say like maybe her name or something.
Yeah, that
But
was
again,
actually Michael. That was Michael.
oh, sorry. Yep. No, I see.
Discussed watermarking or any of that.
Yeah, I mean, if you're serious about photos and you want to kind of maintain some sort of um, rights and authorship of your photos, you probably want to get more into the EXIF data that's on your photos. Um, if you use it doesn't have to be something like Lightroom, although I think now you can get Lightroom or Photoshop Elements, one of those, like either free or very inexpensively. But there's lots of tools out there that let you kind of do batched watermarking of your photos and add author and stuff like that to the photos, and it's embedded in. Watermark photos, which was uploaded to map by local guides. Okay.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know that.
All this kind of stuff is kind of interesting to think about. I mean, this is the sort of thing that I really think people should, make sure that they're using that submit feedback feature. Because like I said, we're the users and they do listen. I know sometimes people feel that, they'll suggest something and it never comes, but you got to keep in mind there's millions and millions, and in some cases, 1 billion plus people using this thing, these products, and they can't make every change and have to prioritize them.
Richard said, if you share an album and give that person access to it, can they share it with someone else or download pictures from it and send to people?
They can definitely download photos from the album. The sharing with other people, I have to remind myself here. Well, let's see. Hey, Michael, can you, do you have an option on the album I just shared with you?
I can open it up.
Yeah, so anyone with the link can see photos and the people who've been invited. If you have that option, the link to share, you could potentially share that link, and people would be like, if Michael were to take that link and share it, do you see that link?
Oh yeah.
So I mean, he could take that link and share it. Yeah. So in that sense, yes.
I could take that. Now they're not going to be able to see it because they're not shared in the album because it's still within the Photos album. So even if I share that link with someone else, they won't be able to share that link there. Now, what I can do is I can download it. And once I download it, now it becomes my image as well. And then I can do whatever I want with it.
Well, here's something interesting. I actually just took that link, the share link, and I pasted it in a incognito or private tab, if you guys are familiar with that.
Right.
I'm able to see the album fine.
Okay.
I mean, they can view the album, and
they're sharing the album. They're sharing the album same as anybody else. So you can share albums.
Right.
So you can share it with multiple people. So
yeah. Now what I can do though, I mean, that's because that link is there. If I uncheck, I'm actually not showing you my screen here. I'm going to just bring my screen back really quick. Okay. Okay. So, here's the sharing options for the album. If I uncheck this option, okay, it'll remove all photos added by others, remove all comments, including your own, make the album private. I can stop sharing that way. Now, if I do that, I believe it's going to make it private, so it's going to get rid of Michael. So I'm going to actually do this for a moment, okay?
Sure.
Okay, so now it's off. It's private again. It's not shared with anybody. His picture is gone. If I go back up to here and go back to sharing options, right now, it didn't automatically reshare it with Michael, okay? I think if I were, this is actually kind of interesting because I've never really delved that much into it. I share albums, but I don't go too crazy with it, if that makes sense. I usually share it in groups of people. I thought you were usually able to turn off that link, and that's what's kind of throwing me off. I'm going to share this with you again and just see if I'm able to. So you're going to get I don't know how it'll work. It's the exact same album. But I'm going to change the sharing options. Oh, good. I have collaborate off. I'm curious if you still see that with collaborate off.
All right, so I got it. You want me to see if I can share it with a incognito?
Yeah, just see if, well, I mean, if you have that link, it's probably going to work.
Oh, okay.
I'm going to guess. But the important note is sharing that link. I don't believe those people can, I don't think those people can add or, you know, delete photos or anything like that.
Okay.
You can test that if you want.
It does open. So if I want to add a photo to this, to library, let me just go to photos.
Yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't come up as an option, that shared album.
But you have to keep in mind that link, although it seems like, oh, wow, it's just a link that people can share. I mean, that's not a human guessable link. It's not a link that's going to be indexed. So, I mean, you know, general rule, don't share photos with people that you don't trust to share those photos with. I mean, if they're very generic kind of photos, maybe it's no big deal. But, you know, you sure got to hope that if you're sharing pictures of your, you know, intimate life, your family, your friends or whatever, and you kind of hope that that's not getting, you know, shared around all over the place. I mean, that's kind of like, you know, maybe not the best habit for your friends to be in if they want to stay your friends. Yeah, I see the comment there, Michael, about the auto trademarking and the whole NFL thing. Yeah, I mean, that's a really legitimate reason. And yeah, I was going to say, because I mean, those photos probably aren't yours then. I mean, they belong to the NFL. And I could definitely see why they probably want to make sure that those are trademarked and that sort of thing. Yeah, I don't see there's definitely not a built-in way to do that. But if you definitely, no, you say never auto post anything unless you want it to go public. Do you mean auto sync anything, or are you just talking about auto post anything like Facebook or something is maybe what he means? But
I'm not sure. I don't know on that myself.
Okay. Well, people might think of some questions while we're talking, but you know, there's always stuff to talk about. I'm really sorry we couldn't get into every little detail of photos. I think one time, Michael, if we're willing to do a part 3 of this, I want it to be just about mobile. And,
okay, we can do that.
We'll make sure mobile is working really well, and the whole thing will just be about mobile. And maybe we'll spend a little bit more time on the auto movie and stuff like that too. And Snapseed.
I think that's a great idea because we pretty much just did all the desktop on this one, so it'll probably work out perfectly.
Yep.
All right, hey folks, we're gonna end this. It's been plenty of time, and it's always fun to learn a little bit. I think we appreciate everybody coming out. It was awesome. Thank you so much for showing up and coming out and and having fun with us. Scott opposed. Okay, thank you everyone. There you go. Okay, that's you. Okay, and I will. If anybody, you can still leave questions in here. I will open this up, and afterward we can always come back and answer. So you can always look back here. You can leave a question, give us a couple days, and then we'll answer it back. So, I'm going to stop the broadcast. Like I said, we're at 1:15 now. So, and all those questions in the back, I'll have Russ go through them, and maybe he can answer some of those before he leaves tonight, possibly. I don't know, or whenever you want, Russ. But I have them all starred up there, and you can kind of look at them. And if you want to add some comments and hopefully answer some questions that people had before we even got in here, that'd be great. Okay. Thank you, folks, for coming. And anybody that's watching the replay, again, feel free to ask any of your questions you might have. Thanks again, Russ. Appreciate you.
Yep, thanks, everybody.
All right.